without further delay, let's get this program kicked off. It is my pleasure to introduce Ms. Sarah Hooper, the Consul General Australia for Ho Chi Minh City, for her welcome remarks. Sarah?
Thank you, Minnie. Good morning. His Excellency Karl van der Bos, Ambassador of the Kingdom of Belgium, and other diplomatic colleagues here today, representatives from the Vietnam government agencies and the business sector, distinguished speakers, guests, and friends. It's a privilege to be here today to open the first ESG Investor Conference to be held in Vietnam. Let me congratulate Ray's partners and Vietcetera for their work to put together this conference and this exciting lineup of speakers. I'm delighted that the Australian government has been invited to support this event, especially in 2023, as we celebrate the 50th year of diplomatic relations between Australia and Vietnam. Our 50th anniversary year is not only a milestone for celebration, but it's a platform for building stronger partnership for the future. And this is a conference very much focused on the future. To believe that sustainability is core to our future is hardly a radical view. The Australian government is committed to inclusive economic growth that is environmentally sustainable, not just in Australia, but in our region and globally. And we're actively working to shape Australia and Vietnam's shared region, the Indo-Pacific region, as one that is open, stable and prosperous, and where sovereignty is respected and where we operate by agreed rules, standards and laws. We see environmental, social and governance factors, the ESG of business activity, as critical to achieving the inclusive growth and sustainability that will underpin the prosperity of our Indo-Pacific region. Impact investors are doing just that, embedding ESG considerations into their for-profit activity and demonstrating impressive outcomes, demonstrating a new capitalism, or is it the old capitalism just made better? So, this is the first Vietnam ESG Investor Conference. It brings together impact investment expertise here today and Vietnam market expertise. As Mimi and Van are keen to say, it goes beyond the what and the why of ESG, and it's here to talk about the how. It's just the future-focused sort of program that the Australian government is pleased to be supporting as part of our 50th anniversary of bilateral relations with Vietnam. High-quality foreign direct investment is essential for Vietnam's development. The Australian and Vietnamese governments are committed to growing two-way investment. And this is a distinct departure from the approach of prior years when we sought only to grow investment at home. We are now partnering for investment in Vietnam, recognising the long-term benefits that this will deliver for our region. And the Australian government recognises that Australia's official development assistance can play a role in catalysing private finance for development. And the Australian government applies 6 principles for social impact investment. We see government as a market enabler and developer. We want projects that represent value for money, be subject to robust outcomes-based measurement and evaluation, represent a fair sharing of risk and return. We want to see outcomes that align with the Australian government's policy priorities, and we want all projects to be co-designed with our partners. We're putting these principles into action by working in partnership with Vietnam to address the most pressing priorities: climate change, gender equality, rapid digitalisation, as well as knowledge and skills development. Over the past decade, the Australian government, through the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, has been developing a portfolio of blended finance programs to crowd in greater amounts of private capital to support our development objectives. Australia does not have a development finance institution. This means our development finance is not deployed at the same scale as other donors, but it also means that we have been able to develop a portfolio focused on market segments where development finance institutions are less active. The character of our portfolio aims to invest early, invest concessionally, and invest to build deeper capital markets in the region. Since 2012, the Australian Government has invested $100 million of concessional finance and has mobilised over $300 million in private capital. These private investors have included impact investors, private foundations, family offices and large corporates. In addition, our investment has attracted nearly $150 million in public co-investments from development banks and like-minded DFIs. We're proud to be making investments that have significant climate, gender and infrastructure outcomes. The Australian Government is committed to enhance climate action in our region, placing climate change and energy transition at the centre of our partnerships. As Australia and Vietnam work towards a comprehensive strategic partnership, these priorities are likely to be reinforced in our partnership. We're working closely with Australian firms to encourage their engagement in Vietnam's energy sector. Australia is committed to implementing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. To this end, Australia is directing our annual international development budget, including $4.55 billion in this financial year, to meet the challenge of achieving the SDGs. We're investing $2 billion in climate finance over 2020 to 2025 to meet SDG 13 for climate action. The Australian Climate Finance Program is one of our key blended finance mechanisms, and at 140 million Australian dollars, it's Australia's largest dedicated climate investment. It is managed by the Asian Development Bank, and it seeks to mobilise private sector climate investment in Southeast Asia and the Pacific. Another program we have, the Business Partnerships Platform, supports partnerships between the Australian Government and sustainable businesses. It catalyses private sector investment and expertise in pursuit of private sector-led solutions to development and climate change challenges in the Indo-Pacific region. Since 2016, the BPP has supported 57 partnerships and 19 countries across Asia, Africa and the Pacific. For example, the Australian Government, alongside Entimo Ventures, is partnering with Cricket One, a technology-based food startup leading the Sustainable Cricket Farming in Vietnam partnership. The partnership seeks not only to increase cricket production, but also to normalise insect consumption as a sustainable protein alternative. And Cricket One's co-founder, Bicky Wynn, is part of the discussions over the next 2 days to tell you more about this program. The Emerging Markets Impact Investment Fund provides advice and finance, such as loans to help hundreds of small and medium enterprises. With this year's budget, the Australian Government has lifted the financial cap on investments in this fund from $40 million to $250 million. An expanded Emerging Markets Impact Investment Fund will maintain a focus on growing markets and help to reduce perceptions of investment risk in the region to unlock private sector investment. In gender equality, EMIF's investments will continue to improve access to capital for women-led or women-owned businesses and encourage more gender diversity in the finance sector. And investing in women, our flagship Australian Government program, has been boosting women's economic opportunities in Vietnam for the past 7 years. It's great to have experts from these programs, both a range of managers and experienced partners from these programs, also at this conference. Another program we run, the Private Infrastructure Development Group, PIDGE, seeks to bridge the gap between risk-return expectations of high-quality investors and the risk-return profiles that are currently on offer in emerging markets. It was established to overcome market and institutional failures that constrain private sector participation in infrastructure development in developing countries. It uses public finance from its 6 donor government partners, including the Netherlands, another partner in this conference, and the International Finance Corporation. So this conference is an opportunity to bring together a range of experts and practitioners to discuss how ESG-focused investment does work in Vietnam and where the opportunities lie to strengthen it further. And it is very pleasing to know that there are a range of Australian voices across the conference program. But more importantly, it's pleasing to know that this conversation is happening and partnerships are being nurtured and strengthened to ensure Vietnam's sustainable and inclusive growth. Thank you again to Ray's partners, to Mimi and Van, and Hao and Vietcetera for convening this conversation and for your focus on partnerships for the future. I wish you all a rewarding and enriching conference. Thank you.